as treasurers, you'll get asked by candidates about their treasurer, okay? So your reports are different. But I just wanted to let you all know how important a treasurer for a campaign is and the difference it makes to a candidate, just so that you can pass on this information. And I'll have to tell you a sad story about my own situation, because so I began my campaign in officially September of 2020, and a gal who was actually a CPA agreed to be my treasurer, which I thought, awesome, you know, I need somebody that's right on, because, you know, with the Nebraska Accountability and Disclosure, just like with the IRS and federal reports that you have to do, you know, it's very timely, right? And so my treasurer, she filed, she did all the things she was supposed to do, I thought, filed 5 different statements, because it's all based on timing in a campaign. You have, like, if you're in, you know, you have your first $5,000 you raised, you have to have a bank account, you have to be filed with the NADC, and then you have your year-end filing, and then so many weeks before the primary, and then the primary reporting, and then so many weeks before the general, and then the post, and so she did all those. And so last year I went in and got in January to file my 2021 returns. My treasurer had resigned, and I had a new treasurer board, and I went and I was looking on the system of what my year-end numbers were, and they were, you know, my ending cash balance said it was, I had $11,000 more in the bank than what I actually had.
Oh.
And I was like, oh boy, what's going on here? This doesn't look good. So I started looking through, just trying to find like that one number that may have been off, right? Oh no, it was not one number. It was 5 filings all the way back to the beginning. So I had to go back through and reconcile all my bank statements. And then I had to account for every deposit and every check that I wrote, every Anedot, and I had to go back and amend almost every line of every filing. So I had to hurry up and file the best numbers I knew for a year in 2021. So I had amend 6 statements. I went in with a stack this big. I spent 2 weeks, 15 hours a day at my table, figuring it all out, and it was a true nightmare. Now, the reason my new treasurer didn't do it, because when we started finding these numbers, he told me, you know, Mary, by the way, I just found out that I have an aneurysm. I'm like, okay, Ken, well, you know what, you just sit back and you relax, and I might run a couple numbers past you, and I'll do it. Now, thankfully, I actually have a degree in accounting, so I was able to dust off all those skills, and they weren't on overdrive for those 2 weeks. So, the moral of the story, trust, but verify. Okay? So, that's true as well for anybody that does kind of any financial thing for you, right? So you as treasurers for your county party, you know, trust what other people do for you, but make sure you verify. That's my story. Okay, Don, let's just pass the time.
Okay.
Come on up.
Okay, I will. All right, I'm just like, this day's moving really fast for me. Okay, a little on my background. Some of you may know. I have had my own tax and accounting practice for 32 years. So numbers are my thing, actually, and protocols and compliance. And so part of what I'm doing at the state party is that administrative side. There's been a lot of fun stuff happening. But one of the things I would like to talk to you about is, I mean, some of the questions I get from treasurers is, well, just show of hands, how many here are treasurers? Okay, how many are wannabe treasurers? There's one in the back. And do you all have bank accounts set up? Yeah, okay. Yes, so that's not an issue, because that is some of the questions I get, is how to set one up. And what I also wanted to go over was NADC reports. How many of you think you're required to file an NADC or don't know or
What's
have questions?
the dollar threshold?
Okay, so it is, so always remember $5,000. When you have $5,000 of contributions or expenditures in an annual year, you're gonna be required to file the NADC report. Your best source of information is the NADC website. On that, there's a wealth of information, the manual, all the instructions. It's really fairly straightforward. And if you ever have questions, call them. Everybody who I've ever talked to there, pick up the phone and they're super helpful. So don't be afraid to call and ask questions. And so that's really your mark. Now, if an individual contributes $250.01 during an annual year, you also need to be reporting that. Correct? And those really are your marks. The forms are pretty straightforward. Now, you also need to be considerate of the fact of in-kind donations. So if somebody is allowing you, they're like a rental business and they're allowing you to use their equipment free of charge, that would be an in-kind donation. It could be a facility like this where they allow you to do that, or they could contribute hard assets and you would have a receipt for it, and then you do need to report that on NADC in that excess amount.
As long as it's within that year, or is there a
Within-
certain time from when we make that donation?
No, it's annually.
Okay.
Do you, right?
It's calendar year.
Calendar year. But this, I mean, there is a guy, how many of here have had to file those reports? So Brenda,
Not as a party, but as a candidate.
as a candidate you have, okay, so you kind of are familiar with that.
Is there an addition to corporate donations? Those are a little different, right? So if you get a corporate donation of 500 or more, you have to file within 10 days.
I'd have to check the website on that.
Can you repeat the question?
Leave it to Mary to ask me the hardest question of the day. No, and corporate donations, so if somebody's donating a certain amount on corporate, I have the manual, so I could look that up if I get you up here to talk. I'll look it up real quick, but, all the answers I ever need, I either pick up the phone and call them, or I look at the manual and go to it, so pretty well. John?
What happens, as far as I know, it hasn't happened, but just in case it does, let's say somebody donates $300 to the county kitty, but we're not over 5,000 on the threshold.
Right. You still need to report that 250.
Okay.
Plus, I mean, if it's one person doing it, yeah, you still need to report that.
Can a husband donate $250 and a wife donate $250
Yes.
Yeah. and not report?
Yes.
Yep.
Brenda?
So, for your example, with the $300, so let's say in the first reporting period, someone gives you $300 and you write that down. And the NADC has, Nebraska Accountability Disclosure Office, has reporting periods. And so, if in that reporting period, they gave $300, you just log in $300 because it's over $250. So you don't split it out. Someone gives you $500 in that reporting period, they give you $100, and if they give you $249, you then have to record that as a treasurer, because next month if they give you $50 more, then you have to add that together and then report it in the next reporting period.
Well, the reason I was asking is because it has never happened in our county.
Okay.
Any of that kind of stuff, as far as I can remember, but it's like just in case.
Right. Be
That
aware.
kind of a scenario.
At our meetings, we have a offering basket, and most people just put cash in. If that's over $250,
So
is there
I,
some certain recording that has to?
yeah, good
take place?
question. I'm glad you brought that up.
Even though it's all cash?
So I
Probably
tried,
comes from a lot of people.
right. So I try my best to instruct people, no cash. Do everything check and credit card if possible. You really don't want any one person to give over $50. So you can write their name down though, with the cash amount, because you're gonna aggregate their year. So if every meeting they're giving that, you're probably gonna exceed that in 1 year. So as a treasurer, it really have to press upon people. They may ask you, why do I have to do this? I don't wanna disclose it, what have you. But as a treasurer, it's your responsibility because of the rules and regulations and laws surrounding campaigns and financing. We just don't want you to get in trouble.
What if you missed one from a previous year and figured it out in 2023?
Always amend.
You can amend.
Yes, you can.
You can amend it.
Yes.
Always amend.
Always amend.
Yes.
And that's,
They're really good about
is there a
it.
Yeah, they are.
website, NADC.com?
Yeah,
or
the Nebraska,
.org?
yeah, Accountability Disclosure
Here.
Commission.
.org or .what?
.gov probably.
.gov?
It is NADC.Nebraska, spelled out, Nebraska.gov.
NADC.Nebraska.gov?
Yes. Does that cover it?
And that's where we report it.
Yes, right. And so on that note, some of the questions I get are this. So we are considered, all of us, nonprofit, correct? So my statement is, not all nonprofits are created equal. So what that means is we are political nonprofits. So we don't look like the 501c3 nonprofits. They act differently and are regulated differently. So the state party, all of our filings are done on the FEC filings and the NADC. So that's where all our financials lie. And so we actually don't file a tax return. Neither do any of the counties because you fall under our umbrella, okay? So I get that question sometimes, like, do I have to file a tax return? You have a federal ID number, doesn't mean you have to file a tax return. So, but that's where, if you're exceeding those amount of contributions, expenditures, that's where the filings come in. People will go to the NEDC website and look at who's contributing, what your expenditures are, and they'll also go to FEC filings for that, if that helps.
So contribution trigger point is $250.01.
Yes,
How about expense trigger point? Is that 5,000?
5,000, so if you expend more than 5,000, which could happen if you had a bank balance and for some reason during the year you had a campaign and you expended more, right?
Right.
Could happen. You didn't raise 5,000, but you spent more.
So if we had a hot dog feed and sold hot dogs and made a certain amount of money, does that get reported if it's over 250 or not?
That's not, no,
It's just-
no, that's, so if it's hot dog feed and you're grossing 250 plus, well, that's multiple people, right? It's just when one person for the year
All right.
exceeds that 250, okay? Am I explaining that right there?
Yeah, and you might just let them know that, you know, if that account is set up, then it's just entering the transactions as they happen, no matter the amount.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I never want people to have to go set up the account unless they really need to, but once it's set up, it's super easy. You just go online, you just enter the information. Sometimes, like, if it's for a certain candidate or you're doing any of that kind of thing, like in our case, that information just automatically pulls up. They just already have it in their system. They've got tons of people and names in there. It's super easy. And then if you have to amend, you can just go online and do that too. But, yes, sir.
Okay, you said that early on that if you have over $5,000, just fine. Is that, I assume there's a limit as to how much a person can donate.
10,000 though for the,
And I was thinking it
well,
was
that's
10.
a federal. So,
Yes, there's a number.
that's a federal
Yeah,
rule,
there's-
not
I
for
don't think
state.
there's no limit, I think, for
Of the
county
state.
party or non-federal candidate, you can contribute as much as
Yeah.
you want.
The
Only
10,000 is a
federal.
federal. Mhm.
Federal.
So, does that answer your question? Yeah. Yes, sir.
This number you're speaking of, that's a federal tax ID number, or
Yes,
is
so
that required if you're under the 5,000 cumulative?
it's required to open a bank account. So if
So
you,
I didn't open the bank account, it was just handed to me. That means we got a federal tax ID number somewhere.
somewhere, and if you need that, you can call your bank, they would have that on file.
Okay?
So one of the other topics I wanted to, unless you have more questions on that, but one of the other topics to cover is, and when you're doing fundraising, why, we talked a little bit before about why to do that. And really, another good compelling reason to do fundraising is when we talk about endorsements of candidates. So if we're gonna, in our county parties, endorse certain candidates, which we do on the state as well, that allows them to have help from the state party. And so that's a plus, a benefit of getting that endorsement for your party. And at the state, I mean, you're able to do that here in the county level. You could set up a website and you can use the WinRed and Anedot system, very simple. They're provided through the state party. You could talk to us if you need help with that, but it's a payment system. Some of you, if you go on our website, that's what you're gonna be looking at using. I also wanted to point out that you could consider doing direct mail for fundraising. So that, I didn't elaborate on that last session because I felt like I was short of time, but that definitely is a way to generate education and voter engagement and fundraise at the same time. And at the state party, we have what we call the bulk rate permit, which allows you as county parties to use that. Now, I can't give you a raw number of how much it costs, but it's significantly less than postage than if you do a first class stamp. So if you were thinking of doing any direct mail fundraising, please talk to me and we'll figure out how much that would run you, because it would just depend on the bulk of items that you're mailing. We can get you a price estimate, but I mean, we probably, candidates saved 30 cents or something more on a mailing, which is huge in a campaign.
So bulk mailings, there's a minimum mailing requirement for a bulk mailer.
Right,
You'd have to, your individual candidate would have to meet those minimums.
right. So we
It's
would,
not like you're picking back or getting them in with
Right.
other bulk mailers, it's just that candidate.
You
Right.
don't know what the minimum is, do you?
250, I think, isn't it
That
250?
sounds right.
yeah, that sounds about right. So, but we could certainly have that conversation and explore it. That's a resource that the state party has that you have access to. So if that's something you're considering, we can have more conversation about that. We're also looking in the state party, cause we don't ever sleep, right, Mary? Is to do a sort of joint fundraising. So as we're developing our fundraising plan, which will be rolled out in March, we wanna involve the county. So if we recently just did the Red Green event, right? Where we were in Lincoln and we went to Kearney. Really like to see some stuff like that where we're helping the counties raise the money as well. So we do a big event like that. So that's kind of what we're looking at. But I would love to hear your ideas. How does that look for you? What would work? What would you like to do? Cause we're exploring that to decide how best to implement that.
Does the state party have the software technology available to it where we could do an email campaign and use geofencing and?
We have done some of that. We have resources that we can tap into to do that. It's kind of pricey. I mean,
Yeah,
you
that's why I
have
was
to.
wondering, because if it were just us doing that, it's pricier than if, the state party had that relationship
Right,
with a provider, then we would get a discount
right.
based on that versus us just going to the firm that's helping with that.
Right.
So you
Well-
don't really have a relationship with anybody?
Well, we've done it, in Lancaster County, but it was costing like $5,000 a month. I mean, I don't see that as
For
being.
what?
A month.
Well, there was an experiment done, and we had somebody that contributed the money to help kind of see if it was gonna be worth it in terms of the
Are we
fundraising
talking credit
aspect.
cards?
No.
Oh, never mind. I'm
So,
sorry if I woke up
It,
late.
we stopped the program after a month
You heard
because like, you know,
5,000.
it just didn't seem. You know, fundraisers will tell you that geofencing is like the up and coming way to fundraise. But it takes a huge investment.
So,
But not
that's
just fundraising, but campaigning, because on that, then you can see the click-through rate.
You do.
You have so much more information than you
Yep.
use with direct mail.
I would encourage you to talk to Eric about it.
Anything my wife gets through direct mail, I don't even see it. It hits the trash can before I get home.
right.
Yeah.
So
I
just,
watched 2,000 Mules, I know what
Yeah.
geofencing is, but I don't know how that applies to this conversation.
Because the email addresses that it's collecting
Yes.
is geofenced.
so,
Exactly where you want them to pull from. Like if you're doing a campaign for city council for Ward 4, you're getting a geofence for only Ward 4 people.
And then you go after them.
Right.
Right, versus emails that you get for Republicans in Madison County or Norfolk, Nebraska, you're sending stuff all over the place, it's not particular to where you're wanting to be.
so kind of how it works is when you're geofenced, right, they fence you in. So anybody walking into that fenced area with their phone, and in what they were doing in Lancaster, it was a 30, we did 30 days, I think we did 3 months or something like that. And for that, so anybody, so it could be I could be geofenced in my house, and my kids have their friends over from across the city, and they come in during that 30-day period, now they're geofenced. Even though they may leave, I hope they do, right?
Don't feed them, they'll leave.
Right. But for that 30-day period, they're getting that, so for a candidate, that's great advertising.
So their ads pop up when you're on the web.
Right.
That's basically what happens.
So I like that idea, it's expensive, whether it would be feasible for candidates to do in counties, we have to explore that.
I think it
It's a
would be
good
great
idea.
if the state could develop that relationship and then offer it to the counties.
Yes,
Because none of us individually, or maybe Lancaster, but our county parties are too small to take advantage of that kind of thing.
right, you'd have to really
Whereas if
fundraise.
the state party could develop the program and then roll it out to the counties, it'd be very helpful.
Yeah, I like that idea, so we'll notate that. This is what this is all about, let's exchange ideas and see what will work for everybody, right? I don't know if you guys have any other questions.
Well, I have a question
or-
with what you passed out on these donations.
Yes,
Do you take monthly
yes.
from my bank thing or?
Yes, so if you,
credit
there's a
card
box
thing?
on there that says monthly, you should see that.
Oh,
right?
I see.
Yes,
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. And then there's the QR code as well, so if you wanna just go right on the website and log on, do that, you're welcome to do that. So, trying to make it as convenient as possible.
So
Yes.
Mary, when you said you were gonna send us a packet with the templates,
Yes.
are you gonna send us a template for that card as well? Cause I'd like to send that out,
The donation card.
that donation card, send me that template.
Yeah.
I don't have to recreate it then when I send it in.
Yeah.
Sure.
You bet. Sir, you had a question?
Is the Democratic Party under the same financial criteria as the Republican? Because they always have a lot more money.
I don't.
And for candidates, I mean, do they have the same criteria?
Oh, as far as the
Everybody.
NEDC reporting and yes, they do. Yep, those are laws. Are you gonna watch them for us? Tasty. Brenda,
So the NADC, the Accountability and Disclosure Office, Frank Daly is their executive director. He is fantastic.
yes.
I
Nicest
think-
Democrat I've ever met.
I don't care what his political party is. We had to start from scratch in Buffalo County, and we got nothing from the previous administration. So and there were a lot of other issues, but him and his auditors, I would have just cried and walked away had it not been for them. And I had a lot of, what I know were really stupid questions.
Yeah.
So So call them. They would rather you do it right the first time than have you have to spend the time to go back and do the amendments. And when you get registered, if you're not getting the reporting email reminders that your report is due, because you're the treasurer, then you need to contact their office and have them get you signed up and registered, so you're a registered user for that website. And they'll send you the training and the handouts for that.
So when is the reporting due?
So the website, so those vary depending on campaign seasons. So the best thing you can do is I typically go check almost every couple of weeks as any new date has popped up or what have you. But they will also send you a reminder, an email, when you're logged in and hooked up with them. They'll email you, this report is due, usually about a week before.
It's
And
10
they're
days
quarterly.
before. So you'll get an email and they'll say, your report is due on the 17th. And the reporting period is this date to this date. And when you're in there, you can look at other people's campaign stuff.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
it's fun.
so if you wanna see
Have free time.
who's given to so-and-so in the Democratic Party or even your, the Republican Party, you can search all that.
But if we're not triggering the $250 or the 5,000, do we even need to bother with any of that?
Yes, so you're required by statute that if you have no reporting to do, you have to go in and click that box that says, I have nothing to report, sign your name, and then you're done. If you're not doing that, you're not in compliance.
That's not what he told me.
That's good to know.
I
Who's he?
talked to the dude down at the accountability and disclosure.
Frank,
He said if you're not
you don't have to enter any
earning
information.
over $5,000 a year, either singularly or cumulatively, we don't need to hear from you. And I said, okay.
You should talk to an auditor then. That's not true.
Somebody told me.
You can call him back and say, I'd just like to clarify.
I will do that.
Because there is a box on the bottom that says if you have nothing to report, then you pop
This is
that.
online.
Yeah, once you get registered,
Once
they'll
you're
send you
registered,
a
that's
reminder.
the trigger.
If you have nothing to
What
report.
do I need to do to register? Have my tax ID number and my bank account number, or?
Just call them, they'll walk you through.
Can I clarify that?
Yes.
So it's once you're registered. So it's the same most with every government entity. So if you've registered, you've had a year where you had to report and now you're registered.
Then you have to.
Then you wanna make sure you always file.
Okay.
If you're not at that level, then you don't have to be reporting anything.
Okay, but we're all new treasurers, so we don't know if in the past that has been the case or not.
Right, and they're very forgiving, so you just need to have a conversation. You're not responsible for
Previous.
the deeds of Obama, it's okay.
I like how you think.
And there is a time frame of when you're supposed to do that, but they don't, and they have other things to do. And you can do an amendment anytime. I mean, we found out, I became treasurer March 31st. I had nothing given to me, so I had no idea what happened in January to the end of March. But I had to file it and put my name to it. And then I found out after the fact that they had donated $4,500 to a certain, I mean, it's like, oh, okay, well, I'll go back and do an amendment, but they're golden there, so give them a call. If Frank's not available, just ask to talk to an auditor.
They're not out to get you. They're not out to get
So
you.
this is donations that we're receiving or expenditures that we're doing. Like if we're giving so much to an individual school board candidate.
Yes.
Is it our expenditures we report to?
Yes, so 5,000's a mark, income, expense,
Okay,
anything in that
5,000
hole.
into
Yeah.
25 one penny,
Right.
both ways.
Right,
In and out.
in and out, in one calendar year.
Alright.
Okay, so I have a question, because we had a big event last January, like over a year ago, and I was not the treasurer at that point. The treasurer now resigned in November. I'm technically the secretary. Well, and this is just I'm kind of just trying to remember what she said, but, and I felt like this was more on the tax side. I thought she looked into it, and if we weren't specifically promoting specific candidates, she she said that then we didn't have to report that income, because we had a lot of income from this one event. And so, I mean, we had a lot of candidates there speaking, but we were promoting like saying, okay, everyone needs to vote for this specific one. So I thought she was telling all of us like, okay, she didn't have to report anything because we, like I said, it wasn't like we were promoting one specific person, so is that wrong?
Yes, that's wrong.
If
So-
it's over 5,000.
Well, if it's-
Right, so your county party, so you fall within, you're similar to a candidate, right? But you, anything that you get in $5,000 or more during that calendar year, you have to report it on NADC.
So what about on the tax side of it? Like now say this year it's in January, like what am I supposed to do on like on the tax side of it?
No.
Anything?
No, and that's what I was talking about earlier. We're a political organization, so we fall under that as a nonprofit political organization. The state party does our filings with the FEC and the NADC, and county parties we're like the umbrella, and you are all under that, and you're not required to file. Only in the exception of if you would have employees that are paid.
And we don't.
Okay.
So,
All right.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
I don't know if this is the right venue for this question, but it is a money.
I don't have $1 million yet.
I got hundreds of texts from
WinRed?
WinRed. Can you explain how that works?
You
Where
wanna
that
talk
money
about that,
goes?
Mary? Very well.
I'll talk
I know,
about
it's something.
Okay, so the Republicans and the Democrats both have their own kind of, it's called like, money bundling is how they kind of think of it. So if you're a candidate, you open a WinRed account, what happens is that, not only will you be receiving donations, but, donors will be made aware of your need for donations. And so like your name is passed on through this network. So, have any of you ever donated to, let's say, Congressman Bacon? Or got in on his email accounts, or anybody that had a WinRed account? Okay, and so what happened is once you donate and they get your number, then they don't leave you alone. It's because of the bundling, and so you get passed on, your number gets passed on to other campaigns. It's like this, it's like done through the higher up system, okay? So it's not like Don Bacon is sending out these advertisements, but he'll send it out to his list, plus whatever like targeted people the WinRed tell him, and it'll go out on that list too. And so the Democrats use this really well in getting a lot of $10 donations. And so they'll get somebody to donate $100, but then $10 3 or 4 more times to these other candidates. So, it could be, I would say it's an advantage. It costs a little less than Anedot, but you have to work with the pushback of people that don't like getting those requests for funds every day during campaign year, right? So you just kind of have to weigh that, Anedot is another system of which if you have a tax ID number is all you pretty much need to do, in a bank account. You can set up an Anedot for free at the county level, and it's basically gonna cost you 4% a donation. And you don't get, no one's text numbers are sent out, it's none of that. It's just, they'll fill out the form, they'll collect the money. Anedot's really great. I don't know personally about the admin side of WinRed, but I do know about Anedot, and it has it makes sure you collect the money for what you have to report, so you get there, all the information you need to fill out on the NEDC report, it's right there. You can zoom in on one person, or you can get a collective, so you can get your data in a lot of varieties. So everything you'll need is always collected from Anedot. So.
Do you know, let's say I make $100 donation to Win on the behalf of a specific Don Bacon, we could say. I assume Don Bacon doesn't get the whole $100.
No, I think
He only
it's
gets
3.5% he has to pay to WinRed, something like that.
He only gets 3.64%.
He'll pay a 3.5% or whatever it is, and he'll get the rest of it.
So the other 3.5% is a administrative fee?
Yeah. it's just
Or
a big
WinRed
charge.
or Anedot, either, all of them have a fee.
Just like
Just like a credit card.
I'd heard that your candidate might, at best, get 60%.
Oh, no,
No.
no, that's not how these work.
Okay.
Anything else?
Do you guys wanna talk about, I don't know if you have any interest in like ways to fundraise, but I'd be glad to talk about that.
Absolutely.
Brenda?
Mary's a good
I
friend.
have a question that was asked to me at the very beginning that might be of interest to you. So we had some folks that just wanna pass the hat at events. And every dollar has to be accounted to a person. So, we had to explain that to people, that we, just like when I went around and visited all your tables and said, thank you for your donation, but if you gave cash, can you write your name down on how much you gave? So what we do at our county, we do donations, we ask if people wanna, they bring some cash, if they wanna donate to the party, great. We have them sign in on one end of the table electronically on an Excel spreadsheet. Everybody that's been there before has their name, email, and phone number. And then we have a little box, and if they find their name, they check the box that they were there. If they're not on, and we know that we have their name, address, and everything for the disclosure, or for mailings or whatever. If they're new, we either have them write it all down on a piece of paper, or if we're not busy, we have them do it right on the computer. Then they pick up their agendas and whatever else, and then at the other end of the table, your treasurer can be there like me and say, I have all these random envelopes, like your mom or mother-in-law have, they have like 80 of random envelopes, little envelopes or whatever. I take those envelopes and I say, with the basket, if you'd like to donate tonight to the party, take an envelope, write your name on it, and put whatever money you wanna put in it, and seal it. Put it in the basket. It's easy. And people that say, oh, it's just a change. But we had Dawn and Eric come out in December. We're not a large party, we had about 60 people there. But we had $230 that we raised. People wanna give. And if you don't ask, they're not gonna give. So that's just an idea for you.
Why would you need to report that?
Because every dollar that's given to a political party, like your Buffalo County Republican Party, we have a tax ID. And we have to disclose and account for every dollar that's given to our political party.
They're not gonna say that they give $5.
Yes, they have to. And you as the treasurer, I had a gentleman that did not want to write his name down that gave cash, just a little bit ago. And I said to him, I appreciate that. However, as the treasurer, I have a legal responsibility, because it's not the party that's gonna cover you. When you sign your name, it's you that are responsible. It's you that are legally responsible. And I said, you have to write your name down or I have to give your donation. It's serious business. If you get caught and you're the treasurer, trust me. We had a legal issue that we stepped into, or that I stepped into. And thank God for Eric and the new administration. We have to get attorneys involved. So, you can do it however you want. I'm just saying that I wanna do it the right way, and cash, change, whatever, it all spends the same, but you have to account for it. That's
But
why it's
again,
called
if it's-
accountability.
If it's $5 and that, and he doesn't exceed $250, it really doesn't
But
go
two-
anywhere, right?
You have to track it. So for example, you give $5 in January cleaning,
Yeah,
you
okay.
give 20 the next month, you give 50 the next month.
Yeah.
In that reporting period, you may have given $250 and 1 penny.
But it's not just in the reporting period, it's
It's
over
the
a
calendar
calendar
year.
year.
Right.
And so if you have an account and you're just entering these, it does the hard work for you. You don't have to decide, and it just simply won't give out the address, it won't list. The new online system, doesn't really make you put reports together. You list all your expenses, all your donations, and, it kind of puts the reports together for you, and it will pool the money from donors. And so it'll report donors that give in a calendar year. Once they hit that threshold, then their name shows up on the report. Until then, it doesn't.
Right. When you enter, for example, Brenda Schultz, the first time in a reporting period, and then you don't ever have to add me again.
Yeah.
When I start to type in my name, it'll automatically come up for you.
So what happens if it doesn't come out? If somebody puts some money in there, you don't catch it, they didn't put their name on it, and
Well,
you
okay,
don't-
so.
you can't account for who did it.
So, when I was a candidate and money just would mysteriously show up, I had to, contribute that to somebody. So, like, maybe my dad only gave me $25. So I knew he wasn't gonna make the 50, to have to be, he wasn't gonna reach his
The
threshold.
250.
So, or the 250, but 50 is what you can contribute cash-wise, to a campaign, okay? So I knew he wasn't gonna do that. So if cash came in, like, I would just put it on his name. I would contribute to somebody. I had to, it doesn't just come from nobody. So I just would find people, with that either weren't gonna give cash or wouldn't care that I had their permission, and that's how I did it. Just so you have a name. I mean, it doesn't, somebody has to take credit for it. Are we done with time?
We are,
Oh,
we're gonna head back to the big room.
okay.
So on your ideas for fundraising,
Yes.
will you send that out to the group as well?
I sure can. Mhm.
Also, do you, are you sending everything to everybody on our individual Madison County? Because it may be going to our chairman, who's then not distributing everything to the rest of us.
That is what we've been working hard to do,
Yeah.
is to get the whole executive committee, so everything goes to the whole executive committee, not just one person.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
So that is an effort that's being made, it's not something that has existed, so today that's part of the survey, was to get that information, get that started in a database.
But if
Yeah,
you're not
so-
on the executive committee.
But yeah, the chairman, who may not be distributing it, is also the one filling out the survey for our
Well,
county.
that's
But they
true.
should
He
be
might
co-
not be giving you the information that
Then
I
I'm
do.
gonna call them, if
Okay.
they have the survey and they didn't
They
complete
did not
all
put
of
all
that,
the emails.
I'm gonna make a call.
Perfect.
So if you signed in today and left us your email, it's that list that I'm gonna use to be, at least in this first round, to follow up
But
for today.
But if ever there's something you think you're missing, or you need, or you have a question, please reach out to us. Because we don't know what we don't know. If you're needing something, you think you have,
But same here, we don't know what's gone out, so.
right. But
Chicken and egg
you
here.
might hear things or suspect, and hopefully today the motive behind all this is to connect all of you. You have to talk to each other too, as county people. You've got another county, you've got all these county treasurers, you guys should be, this should be a conversation, you should form this network. How is this working, whatever. Oh, you got this, oh, experience this. This is something that we work together as a team.
So what you can do is a distribution list of treasurers, county treasurers.
Okay,
And all I have to do is any GOP, TREAS, or
Right.
district treasurer.
very good,
Bingo, I got 93 of them
right.
on the same distribution list.
Yeah.
And that way we would network just like no problem.
Well, that's part of the database. If I could get all the executive team, then I have them all in these boxes. I say, all treasurers, you need to know, NEDC is saying this today,
Yeah.
right? Those kind of things can go out to you. I just don't have that in
Cause you can have a
created.
notebook, piece of paper, we can start our list. Yeah, start it, Teresa.
Look at her go.
Well, I think we have to get back,
Yeah.
to the main room.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's meet at the back table, and we'll just start our own list and
Okay.
keep adding people as we go.